Megadeth was the second real metal band I decided to explore after I had discovered that Dave Mustaine was in fact a former member of Metallica, my new favorite band. I didn't find these albums in chronological order, and even though this video should begin with Rust in Peace, just like the Slayer one should have started with Seasons, it won't, because the two eras of the band are clearly delineated before and after those landmark albums. That being said, let's talk about Countdown to Extinction, which is Megadeth's most successful album commercially and began Megadeth's 1990s run, in my opinion, firmly inserting themselves into the popular culture. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard album charts, the band's highest chart position ever, and was certified double platinum in the United States with over 2 million albums sold, and according to Chartmasters, has sold approximately 5.5 million physical copies worldwide. It was also nominated for a Grammy in 1993 and won a Genesis Award for the Humane Society of the USA for the title track, the only metal band ever to win the award. If you were in Megadeth in 1992, you would probably be flying high. Hell, myself or any of the musicians watching this would probably be overjoyed at this amazing success. But then, you wouldn't be Dave Mustaine. All Dave Mustaine heard was that he was number 2, something he was not prepared to tolerate. After the success of Countdown, Megadave wasn't prepared to bask in the glow for long, so he and the classic lineup headed to Arizona to hook up with producer Max Norman to record the follow-up. A lot of people criticize Megadeth for chasing Metallica's ghost throughout their career, releasing albums that parallel one another, much like the Black Album and Countdown do. But in this instance, you can definitively say that Dave was going it on his own for once. Metallica was still touring the Black Album and hadn't released any new music since 1991. I think if grunge hadn't come along and made everyone sad and pacified, this type of mid-tempo, what I like to call just plain old metal, could have been the dominant style in the 90s, but we'll talk about that in another video soon. Their producer on this album, Max Norman, had some pretty peculiar ideas about music, such as that making the songs 120 beats per minute would make them more radio-friendly. Well, hindsight being 2020, I am happy to coach Mr. Norman on these poor decisions. Firstly, this definitely seems like something Hall & Oates would listen to and say, hey, great fucking idea. But instead, it's Dave Mustaine, so that's no good. Probably not the voice of chart-topping hits worldwide. Secondly, the band is not called Mega Sunshine Rainbow Happy Factory. It's called Megadeth. Megadeth! In 1994, you probably had a better chance of meeting a real woman online instead of Uncle Molesto than a band with death in the name had to be pushed on the radio. I mean, Dave, if you want to know in a nutshell why your band never got bigger, please refer to the band's voice. And I feel like a bunch of kids I went to school with had this shirt, and I also would see the poster at Walmart, and it's just the type of imagery that was everywhere back then. Like if you had ChatGPT to look at all the album covers from grunge bands from 1991 to 1994, and you wanted the mean or median album cover, you'd get this one. Also, dude, what is up with the Calvin Klein ad under the CD tray? I already found some Levi's ads in the little booklet. I think these two quotes about the album's sound by Mustaine sum it up pretty well. We slowed down the songs and went for something people could sing along to. We wanted to reach more people, not just the metal guys. Also, Max Norman was trying to make the record more accessible. More songs in 120 beats per minute. More commercial structures. It worked, but it changed who we were for a while. That being said, the album was another commercial success, going to number 4 on the Billboard charts in the middle of the explosion of alternative rock bands, and went platinum in the United States. I think this is where Dave might have sensed commercial success slipping away while watching his former bandmates achieve the heights he desperately desired himself, but yet couldn't manage to accomplish. This is, I think, the point where the 90s kind of broke Dave, because if you haven't noticed yet, Mustaine is fully on board to embrace selling out. He's into it. He wants it. And if I know anything about life, it's that when you want something too badly, you'll never get it. So, in a credit to dementia that gave him a migraine headache, he decided that he was going to sell out in his own unique and strange way. Here's a quote from the next album, Cryptic Writings. "We divided it into thirds. One part of the record was really fast and aggressive, one third was the really melodic in-between stuff, and the final third was radio-oriented music like Youthanasia." So basically, Dave was saying here that yes, we know we aren't going to make our old fans happy with this record, but hey guys, at least I gave you 4 old Megadeth-style songs, where on Load and Reload there are basically 0 songs that sound anything like the old Metallica. In a way, I find this much more insulting than Metallica's complete change of style. At least plausibly, Metallica could say, hey, we just don't feel like playing thrash anymore, which they didn't, and therefore made albums in the 90s that weren't thrash, but still sort of sounded vaguely like Metallica. Megadeth, on the other hand, are saying, hey, you guys see these 4 good songs? You like those? Well, fuck you! Here's a Tu Le Monde 6 times in a row. Actually, Cryptic Writings isn't that bad. The writing is fairly memorable, and even the bad songs are tolerable. I'll refer you to Rico's Law on this one, as it was my first Megadeth album. The next album the band put out famously was Risk, and while this is a classic board game of global domination I have played countless times, I have actually never listened to Risk. Ever. By the time Risk came out in August of 1999, I had already moved far past thrash into death and black metal. And when I heard the lead single, Crush 'Em, I was like, you know what? I will pass on this one, fellas. I just saw it as a cheaper and shittier attempt to sell out, even worse than Cryptic Writings and light years worse than Load and Reload. I'm going to pause from writing this video to listen to Risk for the first time here in November 2025 and let you know what I think. Well, I'm back now, and wow, that certainly was everything I had expected it to be. If, like myself, you fortunately avoided this album so far and want to know what it sounds like, here is my honest, only listen to it once interpretation. Well, for me, with the notable exception of Rust in Peace, every album has some really hokey and unlistenable moments or songs. It seems this was the facet of the band they tried to focus on, and it's really hard to get through the whole thing. I know this is a popular opinion in metal, and while I am usually one to challenge these popular tropes, this one seems well deserved. I think also it could possibly be said it sounds like a bad attempt to sound like Bon Jovi, while lifting a lot of popular melodies from commercially successful songs from 1996 to 1998. I don't even think there's a single song you could really classify as a Megadeth song proper. At least they don't have the same feeling. It's a really well-known metal story that famously Lars Ulrich told Dave Mustaine around this time, possibly after Cryptic Writings, but before Risk, that he, quote, needed to take more risks with his music, and Mustaine coined the album title after this. I like to entertain the thought in my head that Lars was really just trolling Mustaine because, one, he damn well knows Dave Mustaine does not have a voice for the radio, and two, obviously in hindsight, Megadeth should have abandoned the quote-unquote trying to get a #1 album song idea after Youthanasia, but definitely after Cryptic Writings. They could have filled the void becoming a fucking thrash band again, something they really didn't do until 2004 when they released The System Has Failed. If Megadeth would have leaned into we're a metal band in the late 90s, they probably could have siphoned off legions of disaffected Metallica fans, but instead we got a shitty hard rock record to round out the decade. As always, thanks for watching and subscribe for more Metal Tales.